Hi there, and welcome to another installment of our fun discussion around the Enneagram personality tool. And by now, you've gotten to know Emily Bracken well because she's been with us for each of these sessions, and we so much appreciate her research on this. And I don't think she wants me to call her an expert, but today she's a double expert because we got to her number finally. Number 6 is what we're looking at today. And I also get to introduce to you today, for the first time on this side of the camera, her husband, Ryan. And Ryan is a videographer, storyteller here at Grace Place. We love the work he does. And he is a number 9. And so we're going to get a little perspective on what it's like for Brian to live with a 6 and maybe what it's like to live as a 6 and a 9 and how you guys cooperate together, hopefully, for the most part.
Sometimes.
So in a minute, you're going to get into your study, and our Bible passage is in Exodus because we're talking about Moses, picking up with what was discussed in the message as well this week at Grace Place. And Moses, man, God used him in amazing ways throughout his life, and especially during the last third of his life. But Moses displays a lot of behavior like a 6. He's always questioning at the start. He's what-ifing all the time. Like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Am I the right guy? And God keeps reassuring him, but he doesn't even seem to hear it. Mm-hmm. He just keeps asking the same questions too, because God says, I'm going to be with you. And he says in chapter 3, verse 18, the elders of Israel will listen to you. Okay? God said that. And then in chapter 4, verse 1, Moses answered, what if they do not believe me or listen to me and say the Lord did not appear to you? God just said they're going to listen to you. Okay? What's all this what if in business?
Yep.
That's a part of the 6 dilemma, isn't it?
Yep.
That there's worst case scenarios to be thought through and planned for, and because you want to be safe and secure.
You want to have a plan.
And you want to have a brother.
You want to have
to speak for you.
Well, he did get his brother Aaron later in the story to come along with him. God already knew he was going to have all these issues. Mm-hmm. And so Aaron was already on the way. God was prepared. But God finally lost his patience. We have to try to be patient with all these questions, don't we, yes. Ryan? Uh-huh. It says the Lord burned with anger in chapter 4, verse 14. So there is a limit, but we want to be figuring out how to love each other, not get frustrated with each other. So where should we start with this?
Okay, we'll start with our pattern. So let's see. What 6s should know about themselves. So what I think every 6 should figure out what it is that they're afraid of, what it is that makes them anxious, and I like even a different word better, what it is that makes them unsure or uncertain, because 6s get this bad rap that they're just like Piglet, like from Winnie the Pooh, running around constantly terrified and constantly verbalizing their fear. And it can be that for sure, but it also can just look like feeling on edge. That 6s have this underlying fear that follows them around all day long, and so 6s need to know what that looks like for them. So some examples for me: if I catch myself complaining a lot, or if I catch myself criticizing him or my children even, or if I catch myself trying to explain why it needs to be done a certain way, insisting that it be done a certain way, or questioning how he's doing something. Those are all things that I have learned to check in on, that when I'm doing that, I check and see if I'm feeling anxious. Because if you can identify when you're anxious, you can do something about it. You can respond instead of react. Okay.
So let me just ask you, are you anxious about the coronavirus?
I'm not so anxious about the coronavirus. I don't know if past self may have, like myself in the past, may have freaked out a little bit more about that. I tend to not watch the news.
Good thinking. Because every once in a while it comes on. Breaking news.
Yes.
Oh no, another crisis I got to prepare for.
Yeah. I also feel like I don't really believe everybody I question whether they really know what they're talking about. Is this just hype? And so there's so many points of view that I start to question and just give up.
And don't sixes have interesting relationship to authority? Like maybe distrust authority, but if they trust, they really trust. They might follow a leader anywhere if they really trust them.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that also comes back to feeling safe. So if you think about what a leader does tend to provide, they either provide safety or they threaten safety. And so I think that sixes draw toward which one are you. And if you pass the safe test or whatever, then they are going to cling to that, like, I feel safe when I'm with you, so I'll stick with you. And they can get swept into stuff without paying attention.
Sometimes they can get into like fundamentalist groups and stuff because of this loyalty and authoritarianism. Huh? At least that's what I've read.
Yes.
Does she ask a lot of questions
Yes.
every day?
Most days, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All day, every day,
All-
probably.
All day, every day.
Yep.
And why is that?
I feel more safe when I have answers. I
Mm.
think it triggers my anxiety when I don't know how he's going to do something. I think a lot of my questions to you is, what's your plan? What are you going to do?
And what'd you
Where are
say?
you
I don't
going?
know. I haven't figured it
where are
out
you
yet.
going?
Yeah, I usually don't figure it out till I figure it out.
Well, because that's also his 9 tendency.
Yeah. But the 9 and the 6, I read somewhere they often make a good partners, a good relationship.
Yeah, mostly.
Got to work on it. Everybody does.
He's very peaceful, so I like that. He balances my angst. So I think 9s are really good for 6s. I think on the flip side, sometimes I stress him out, and he can't keep peaceful because I'm just so anxious. But also on the flip side, I think another thing that's good about 6s is that they really do care about everybody. Like, that sounds too nice. They also don't care about everybody. But in a sense of, like, everybody does matter to them, so they want everybody to be heard and everybody to be seen, and I think that goes well for 9s because 9s want to be seen and they want to matter. So I think that's why that pair.
And you
often
also
works.
have a line that connects the 6 and the 9.
Yeah.
Where you go in stress or security one way or the other, right?
Yep. I'm her security, she's my stress.
Have you said that before?
Oh, yes. He reminds me of that often.
Oh, that's good.
Um,
Well, hey, by the way, if you're hearing a little bit of noise on this video, it's good news
yes.
because it means you can hear well. No, actually what it means is spring is coming because we have some people outside that are working on mowing, I think. It's pretty early.
Trimming the
weeds.
Yeah.
I rode my motorcycle today. Spring is coming.
Yay.
All right, back
Okay,
to the
Second
loyalist.
thing that 6s should know about themselves, and I think this one is important, is to know that you are very courageous. Often you get that bad rap of being so scared that I think people don't realize how courageous 6s actually are. And I think my whole childhood I thought that the people who were brave and the people that were courageous were the people that weren't afraid. The people that could do the things that I was holding myself back from doing because I was so scared. But in order to have courage, you have to be afraid.
Mm.
It's acting in the midst of your fear. And so if you use that definition of courage, then 6s are courageous all day long. I think we don't always know how much that fear is under the surface for them, and so you don't realize the things that they're doing that actually take courage.
So true courage is not the absence of fear, it's how you respond.
And knowing that and accepting that and like looking into that for me as a 6 has changed a lot for me. It's just that whole not trusting
Isn't it
myself has given me a lot more confidence, realizing that every day I'm courageous.
Isn't it interesting that typically the most fearful personality type can also be the most courageous
Yeah.
also?
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
Okay, so what we should know about them. Okay, so
What you should
What
know about
should-
yourself.
what? Okay, so we should know that sixes are like a walking paradox. So anything that you might use to describe them, often the opposite is also true. They often feel two things at once. So one example, and then maybe you have examples. When somebody asks me how I'm doing, I can't stand that question because I feel like, okay, if I say I'm fine, that's true. I am fine because ultimately I do feel like I will be fine and everything's fine. But then if something is not okay with me, then I feel like, well, I have to mention that also because I'm also not fine because maybe something's going on. But if I say that I'm just not fine, then perhaps they will be like, oh no, and super concerned, which
Do
like,
you
no, I'm
overthink things?
fine. Yes.
This is all these thoughts are going on in your head. You're in the thinking triad. You're in the overthinking triad, right?
So I feel like the right answer is both. But you can't actually just say that to someone. How are you both? They don't get it.
So you sent me a quote that really underlines that. It says, this is from the Enneagram Institute. Until they get in touch with their own inner guidance, sixes are like a ping pong ball that is constantly shuttling back and forth between whatever influence is hitting the hardest in any given moment. Because of this reactivity, no matter what we say about sixes, the opposite is often also true. They are both strong and weak, fearful and courageous, trusting and distrusting, defenders and provokers, sweet and sour. I haven't seen that sour side of you yet, but we won't get into that. You have? Okay. Aggressive and passive, bullies and weaklings, on the defense and offense, thinkers and doers, group people and soloists, believers and doubters, cooperative and obstructionistic, tender and mean, generous and petty, and on and on. It's the contradictory picture that is the characteristic fingerprint of sixes, the fact that they are a bundle of opposites. Can you relate to any of that?
Yeah, all of
All
that.
of it?
Yep.
That's funny.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the one has an inner critic, the six has an inner committee.
Uh-huh. It's all the things. All
They
at
got other
once.
names for people that hear voices
Yes, they
in
do.
their head.
I feel like I don't always know the answer, and so I check in with, what would Clay think about this? What would Ryan think about this? What would my mom think about this? And then I have more, like if 3 out of the 4 would say one way, then maybe I go with that way.
So it's a poll that you're taking.
Kind of, yeah, taking a poll in my head.
Search for that security.
It all comes back to security and safety.
Yep. Do you have anything to add about my back and forthness?
Excuse me.
No, I mean it's just that search for security. So like you can't really ever. Well, like the self-doubt is a big six thing because you try to make a decision, but then there's that constant what if this isn't the safest option, or what if this isn't the best option, and so there's just the other side. That's probably why you're
So
bouncing around.
let's just do a hypothetical here. So you guys are going to go have a date. You're going to go out to eat. And
Maybe.
how do you decide
If we
where you're
get there.
going and what you're doing?
Right.
Who decides?
It's a good question. I don't know if we ever do
Because
decide.
the peacemaker's like, what do you say? Whatever you want to do, or
Yeah, I usually don't have a strong opinion, and so yeah, the 6-9 combo is she's dependent, I'm withdrawing, and so I don't care, and she just wants whatever the rest of us want.
so
And
how do you
we
make a decision?
Usually have to. I start to drive, and then she gets mad
Oh, but she
'Cause-
wants a plan
because
first.
we don't know
doesn't
where
she?
we're going.
You don't want to get in the car without a plan.
And
do
so
you?
then
No,
I
that
stop
makes me
and
very
we
anxious.
sit there trying to figure out where to go.
Yep.
So it has to be a very ahead of time plan where one of us has an opinion, or
If you were going on a vacation, would there be much spontaneous things happening, or would it be pretty scripted?
He likes spontaneity. I don't. But I like him.
So you'll go along with it sometimes.
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like
Well, that's another issue altogether is planning a vacation. That doesn't happen because that's too out of the ordinary and too many unknowns to.
vacations aren't relaxing to me.
They're not.
staying at home is relaxing to me.
It's the opposite for the 1.
Uh-huh.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So when you're at home, is it easier for you to relax and have fun and be yourself?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Do you see a different side of her at home?
He's not allowed to talk about
Tell
that.
us some stories about when she really lets down her hair.
She's kind of weird.
I don't think that you knew how funny I actually was.
No.
Which, that sounds like I'm bragging. It's not. I just didn't.
I think I was surprised the more years we've been married how much I laugh at home.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, I was reading scientifically, actually, laughter is one of the ways that sincere laughter, not just faking, is one of the ways that people can release fear.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Huh.
So keep on laughing.
Okay.
And keep on drinking out of your cup that says, be fierce.
That's funny. That's another thing of the what to know about 6s is they are generally kind of like snipers with the humor.
Oh, yeah?
They'll often are very funny. And we were trying to talk about why that might be, but maybe there's this sense of releasing the fear with humor that
Maybe so.
they have a knack for it.
And if you can laugh at your own exaggerated what-if scenarios sometimes, that can be
Yes.
helpful too.
Yes. If you can laugh at yourself, it's good.
All right, what else we got?
Okay, another thing, actually, so you might assume that because 6s tend to be afraid, that if a crisis hit, they would just be scared and running into the corner. But actually, in crisis, your 6 is who you want on your team. Mostly because they've already played it out. They already know what they're going to do. They already have a plan. But there's this thing that happens when a crisis actually does occur, that there's this calmness that comes over me. And I can just do what needs to be done. I know what needs to be done. I can be confident. I can trust myself. And I can be calm. Whereas when there's not a crisis, I'm almost more panicky.
Interesting. Yeah, I read somewhere that 6s just step up and step into it with courage when there's a crisis. I guess you already sorted out your fears in advance.
Yep.
So how can we, are we ready to talk about how to love a
Yes.
6?
Yes, and this guy is good at it.
Is he?
So, yeah.
What have you learned over time?
You want
What's
to go
our
with my
list
first one? First one is to remind them of your commitment.
Yeah.
I can explain why, and then you can explain that you do it.
Okay.
Or you can do whatever you want, and I don't have to control it. See, I knew I would be more anxious this week.
You've been worrying about it all week, haven't you?
So you want to tell your 6s periodically and consistently just that you're committed to them. That you don't say it like that because that sounds cheesy, but I love you, or I appreciate you, or I'm so glad we're friends.
So glad we're friends.
Things like that, because they, if they're all constantly forecasting and predicting what ifs, they're going to also steer that toward relationships. And so, if I haven't heard from someone in a while, I might start having to battle those thoughts of, oh, what if they don't like me anymore? What if we're not friends anymore? What if I did something that offended them?
What if?
All the what ifs. But, if I can look back to, oh, you know what? I remember she said, I'm so glad we're friends. Then that helps me to let that go.
So do you set a reminder on your phone every day?
I should. 'Cause I'm not good at that.
You're working on it, though.
I thought she said you were good at that a few minutes ago.
I love loving a 6, but not that aspect of it.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to remember. But I think I'm not good at it because of I'm married to the loyalist, so I don't ever have to question if things are going to be okay or if we're still going to be friends. Or I feel so secure that I forget that
She doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's so beautiful about this tool. If you're using it correctly, those kind of insights are going to strengthen your relationship. And you said that one time, you were having some tension in your marriage, and the Enneagram tool really did help you guys.
It really did. My goal was to love him better. And so for probably 3 years, I tried to do that just out of what I felt like was love. We did love languages, and that helped a little. But in general, it was I just will reassure him all the time of how much I love him. But when I started reading about the Enneagram and it had specific ways to love a 9, and they were actually all the ways that he had been
was trying to
telling
love you,
me
yeah.
all the time. And then when I started actually applying that, it was like, wow, it just changed a lot for us, I think. Just knowing why that mattered to him and why this matters to me,
Mm-hmm.
and how we can love each other better like that.
That's awesome.
The last one, remind them that they will be okay and remind them of their past successes. They tend to have success failure. And no, that sounds wrong. They tend to have success amnesia.
Uh-huh.
They forget. And I absolutely
that?
do this all the time. Well, every new challenge is a new challenge. Go for it.
Well, and just the constant what if. What if today we start recording this video and you can't put a sentence together?
Yep.
What if you go to teach the staff about Enneagram and you forget everything you've read in all the books the last several years? all the what ifs.
Yeah.
What if these friends who we hang out with often decide they don't like us anymore?
Those kind of thoughts come in your head?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sorry. That's got to be hard to have that going on all the time.
But it's
But
like
you learn how to turn it into positives.
yeah, and it's loving the 6. It's that reassurance is not a lot of work, and so it doesn't take a lot to remind her that, oh yeah, this went well last time, and then it's not like a fight. It's just like this is fine, which you don't tell a 6 this is fine, but you say you've done this before and it was all worked out, and
Yeah.
you have the tools
And that
to
helps.
be successful.
That helps when he's
Yeah, I
does
feel
that.
like he used to just be like, stop worrying, it's fine. And that does the opposite for a 6. Like, well, clearly, if you're not worrying about it, I should probably double worry about it. But yeah, that what you're saying, you've really started doing that for me, and it really does help because I really do forget. So, like, coming to teach the staff Enneagram, I was a little panicked. Like, I don't know that I can do this. And he's like, well, but you've done it before. Like, remember the last time you did it, and remember how you were also worried then, and it worked out fine. And that just helps calm that anxiety inside.
Sounds like you got a good partnership going.
He's a good
And
guy.
you did a great job with teaching
thank
our
you.
staff about the Enneagram. Well, that has been a good discussion. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up?
You look at me like yes.
No, I'm looking at you
Well-
like, did you have anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a excellent discussion, and we'll talk again soon.